what is life after registration? How do you feel being a nurse, the registered pharmacist? How do you feel being a manager at the place where you work? And if you
It's
want to share a little bit of what the take home is, we wouldn't mind. But if you don't want to put it out there, we would respect that because you've done so much way more than we expected. Sharing the undiluted, the raw truth, your whole journey with us, we really appreciate it. So over to
that's
you. How do you feel, pharmacist shopper?
it feels surreal. It's I think it's become normal now because now that I've been
You guys are welcome back to my YouTube channel. So with me today is Shope from Nigerian, West Africa, and you guys have been on me. Juliet, could you please get us someone that have gone through this KEPS process and eventually register in New Zealand? So I have Shopper with me here today. I will allow him introduce himself and we will dissect all the questions from the course, how you can start your documentation from anywhere in the world, from West Africa, from China, from India, for everyone that is not registered in US, Canada, Ireland, Australia, and the UK. That is for those that are following the non-equivalent qualification route. So you are welcome to my channel, Shope. Please introduce yourself.
Hi Juliet, how are you? Hi everyone. My name is Shokwe and I am based in New Zealand. I work in a local pharmacy in a town called Wanganui, and I'm privileged to be the manager. Yeah, so it's nice being on board. Welcome everyone.
Thank you so much. So guys, we'll get started now. Shope wants to share his journey with us. He started from Nigeria and he wrote his caps. For those of you that kept on asking Juliet, where do we write our caps? How much is it? So he wrote his caps from Nigeria before even moving over here to New Zealand. So we would hand over to him to talk us through the process from how he started to passing his caps and coming over here. Over to you, Shope.
All right, thank you, Juliet. Yeah, it's quite a process, just like everything else that is capital intensive. You really need to think it through. You need to have backup plans financially, especially as to, okay, if I do it the first time and it doesn't work, do I have enough in the tank to keep going? Because it will drain you financially, it will drain you mentally, it will drain you emotionally. But yeah, at the end, it is rewarding. And sadly to say, not everyone will make it. But however, if you are determined and you stick to yourself and you're true to yourself, eventually you will pull through. And the support system you put around yourself is very important as well. For me, I started my journey in 2015. 2015. I initially looked at Canada, which but eventually things didn't work out, so I decided where else would I go. So Australia came to mind, but I am not a fan of snakes, so I decided I was not going to Australia. So America came to mind, but I'm not a fan of guns either, so America was not a place to go. So I did some research about New Zealand, and at the time, there were some very interesting statistic about New Zealand that amazed me. I think at the time, 2015, New Zealand was ranked the second most peaceful country in the world. New Zealand was ranked the least corrupt country in the world. And New Zealand had a ranking of seventh in terms of Human Development Index, which is huge, which is very huge. Those are things you want to look at when you want to move to a country. Yes, the financial aspect is good, but if it's just about finance, then New Zealand is not the place for you. There are other countries that pay better for pharmacists. Canada is an example, America is an example. But what New Zealand brings that the likes of America may not necessarily have is that peace of mind and an environment where you can raise a family. New Zealand does that really well. Yeah. And they do pay well as well, but not as much as America. So anyway, I started mine in 2015. So I did my research and I decided I was going to register in New Zealand. So I called up the council in New Zealand. At the time, the officer that was in charge of documentation for overseas pharmacists through the non-recognized route, then his name was David. He was a very nice man. He talked me through it. And he told me it's capital intensive, but yeah, he did say it is rewarding at the end of the day. So he sent me the documents. And so I think one of the requirements was you needed to have been practicing in a community or a hospital pharmacy in the last 5 years. However, I do know now they are looking at dropping that requirement now.
Yeah.
So it is possible you may be fresh from pharmacy school and be eligible to apply. But back then, you needed at least 1 year experience because here they are looking for community and hospital pharmacists. Also, you will need a reference. Now, here's the tricky part to it is they want your reference to send their form directly to them, which means you have to pay your reference the courier fee for them to fill the form and send it on your behalf to the council. You cannot take the reference form from your referee and send it. They feel it has to be independent enough that they can, in their mind, say it is valid.
Can I add
So,
something?
yes.
There has been a change to that. So when I
Okay.
did my the reference form necessarily mustn't be couriered. So you
Okay.
can download it, email it, and your reference should email it directly to them or
Wow.
your case
Wow.
officer. So that's it.
I guess that's a very good thing. Now, back then, for each reference, I had to pay $25,000 UPS courier to
Yeah.
send it to New Zealand. But that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
The fact
so
that
this
it's
is
getting better.
a buttered bread now that and
Yeah.
that's career fees being slashed for you. So
Yes.
I just want to
Absolutely.
add that because I'm quite fresh in the process.
Okay.
So that was
Yeah.
how I did
That's
mine.
good.
So carry on,
I think
Shobe.
that's very good if they've done that. That's very good. Yeah. So you then you need to get your transcript from the school. Back then as well, the school was the one that will send it directly to the council. Is I'm not sure if that's still the same
Same.
now. Is it still the same? Yeah. So you have to pay your school the fees for them to get the transcript and send it. Then once all that is
Electronic
done,
copy is accepted now.
yeah. Oh
Electronic copy
wow.
is
Wow,
accepted.
wow. Things are very good now. It wasn't that good back then. You had to spend a lot of money just to send documentation back then. But yeah, so you do all that, get sent, they review it, and then if they're happy with what they've seen, then you also need to write IELTS as well. Now, I also understand that is being reviewed now also. My time, you needed to score a minimum of 7 in each band and a minimum overall of 7.5. I understand that is being reviewed right now as well.
No, that was what I submitted. The only change, like when I did my documentation, which
Mm,
is more than a year now, is
mm,
that you can do OET.
Mm,
which you can
mm,
pair.
mm.
You can club over.
I think this review they are talking about only came out a month ago because they sent me an email about it. The council sent me an email about it. So this is very very recent. This
Okay.
change to IELTS is very very recent. Also, they are also looking at the possibility of you doing your law exam even before you do your CAPS exam. That is something they are looking at as well now as well. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to where I was. So I did my IELTS as well. Thankfully, I did it in one sitting. I had to travel to Abuja to do that. I sent my documentation. It was accepted. Then I was told to write the exam, and they sent me a list of the countries where I could write it. There were just three countries in Africa that they approved, which was South Africa, Kenya, and I think Zimbabwe. Those were the three countries. So my first one, I actually traveled to Dubai instead to write the CAPS exam. And the beauty of the CAPS exam is because it's two papers split into two. You write it on the same day. There's CAPS one, there's CAPS two. I don't know of now, but back then, when you write both exams on the same day, if you've passed one and failed the other, you are allowed to resit the other. I do know
Pretty
there are
much
some
the same.
still the same. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I did mine in Dubai, I passed CAPS one, but I didn't pass CAPS two. So the following year, I had to travel again to Kenya to write CAPS two, which thankfully I passed. So when I passed that, then I came to New Zealand in February 2017. I Let me try and remember. Then I started my law course. I did started my law course in February. I think it was February. I started online 12-week course with Sonia Ram, lovely lady. Was quite interesting for me because I was new to something like that. And unfortunately, for someone like me, where I really didn't have anyone to like guide me through it, it was a struggle. The good thing now is there are more people now on ground that can guide you through the process. But for me back then, it was hard.
We are
I
thankful for that for you guys.
Yeah, it was hard. So a lot of the exams I struggled with them. So the law exam, for instance, even though it seems straightforward, I actually didn't pass it the first time because I actually didn't understand the principle around the law course. With the law course, what they're actually looking for is you being proactive because you are in a forum with other peers like peers like yourself, contributing each week to discussions. What your tutor is looking for is you being proactive. Is once a question is posted, she is looking at, okay, how quickly can you answer it? She's not waiting for someone else to answer, then you add to it. You adding to it is fine, but when it becomes a pattern where you're always adding to it, but you're not the one contributing, sometimes it may look as if, okay, you really don't know it, but you are hiding behind the others. So being proactive is very, very, very important. Submitting your assignments on time is very, very important. Also, each week, the idea is for each course that is posted each week, the next course posted the following week is expected to build from what you learned the previous week. So it's like a puzzle, and it has to line up. So when you do the first week and then you do the second week, make sure that the answers you're giving in the second week actually builds from the answers or what you've learned from the first week. So by the time you're answering your questions from the 10th week, the expectation from your tutor is your answers are robust in terms of the answers you're giving reflects the knowledge you've learned the previous 9 weeks. To her, that tells her that you actually understand what you're doing. So, say for instance, in your week 9, you are posted a scenario from your tutor. Your tutor expecting that the answers you will give will be multifaceted in terms of when you're quoting your legislations, you're quoting legislations from what you've learned from week 1, not just the legislation you learned on week 9 to answer that question.
Should be able
That
to
is what
flash back.
exactly. She's expecting you to build from that. For your exam, for the law exam, it's tricky, but for me, I think you have to be quick. You have to be quick. Be efficient. Have a very good Wi-Fi, because if your Wi-Fi times out, you can be in serious trouble. I have heard of cases where people have actually had two computers. One opened up for legislation, one for the main computer with your questions. Hey, whichever way you want to do it, that's fine. But be quick, because if you're not quick enough, before you know it, time will run out. When you approach your questions, especially the part two, which is the theory part where you get to like really explain your answers, just like what you've done the previous 12 weeks, build your answers. Don't just give one legislation and say that's your answer. Build it right from what you learned from week one. Oh, code of ethics, code one, answers this question. But also, a legislation in the Medicines Use Review, or I'm sorry, in the Misuse of Drug Act, for instance, that you can quote from there that can also buttress what you've just quoted from your code of ethics. You can pick something from the Medicines Regulation of 1977 and pick something from there and add it to it as well. So one question, you can have 3 or 4 legislations to
Back it
back up
up.
your answer. That's what they are looking for that exam. So that being done, then the next hurdle for you is getting internship. Now that's the very interesting part. One of the hurdles I struggled with getting a place to do internship was because you're not a local intern. Preceptors are usually very skeptical to employ you. 2 reasons. Number one, there is the financial aspect. I'm not sure of now, but back then, as a preceptor, if you take in a local trained intern, you get paid to train them. If you take in an overseas intern, it's different. You get paid nothing. So pretty much the preceptor is taking the risk of training you free of charge. But also when you pass, they are not legally able to tie you down. So you can decide here after my internship, I'm free to go. So they are looking at it that, okay, I've trained you for free, I've invested much in you, then after a year or even after your internship, you decide to leave. Why do I want to take that risk? When I know for a fact I can take a local intern, even if they decide to leave, I know I'm being paid to train them. So that becomes automatically a barrier for a preceptor to take an overseas pharmacist. So for me, I struggled. I remember I would say I called close to 30 pharmacies trying to get a place to do an internship. And
That's
each time was a straight no, or they assumed because of my name that I couldn't speak English. The ones that eventually gave me a ring and heard my accent and said, okay, your English is actually very good. The next hurdle would be, however, you finished overseas. And sorry, we don't take overseas pharmacists. So it was a massive barrier. So one of the things that helped me, and I think would be an advice to people, would be before you get to that part, as soon as you do your caps, in the eyes of the law here, you are considered a pharmacy graduate.
yeah.
Count. It will count. I know we are looking for the money. Some pharmacies may decide to pay you a stipend for that. How you can do it? Because other preceptors outside that area, when they call for reference, that's the people they will call. They'll say, okay, I can see you worked in so pharmacy here in New Zealand. I will give the manager there a call to see how you worked. And that was all worked for me because eventually I had, while still doing my other non-professional job, to keep afloat. And they had to call that pharmacy. And thankfully, the manager there was impressed with what I did. And she gave me a glowing recommendation. which was how I got the job I had for my internship. So that would be my advice. If they give you the money, take it, but don't prioritize the money. Prioritize the experience. It's only for a few months. That would be my advice for that one.